Hey, you're just in time. Let's jam. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Scott, and welcome to the third episode of Let's Jam. What I'm starting to believe might be one of the best Cowboy Bebop podcasts out there, but it remains to be seen. I also haven't seen any other podcasts regarding Cowboy Bebop, but that's because I'm a jerk and don't want other ideas to influence what we're creating, if that makes sense.
It does.
Again, my name is Scott. Of course, Ollie is here with me. Hi, Ollie. Welcome in.
How's it going? Welcome back to our second venture, which is Let's Jam. We're the same guys behind Paper Cuts, which is an awesome show. We recommend that you watch it. And and here's round two.
Yeah, so we decided that if you watch the previous episode or listen to the previous episodes of the show, that Cowboy Bebop is a show that is so influential and so good that we had to do a project with it. So here we are. Today we're going to be going over sessions 5 and session 6 of Cowboy Bebop. That's Ballad of the Fallen Angels and what's session 6 called?
Sympathy for the Devil.
Sympathy for the Devil. We've got a lot to talk about, a lot to get through, and a lot to explain regarding these episodes. And so just before we get into it, if you are a great big fan of what we're doing here at Helga House Productions, visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Helga House. That's patreon.com/Helga House. We're still working on some of the tiers, but essentially you will be getting Patreon exclusive episodes of watch-alongs of other famous properties, of movies that we're working on a Patreon exclusive episode of Paper Cuts, which will be a watch-along of the Netflix movie of Death Note. And you get extended episodes of Let's Jam, and you'll be the first to know about merch, and basically you kind of get on the inside track of all things Helga House by joining our Patreon. Also, you help keep the lights on here, so that's always good.
Helga House is growing, and again, we can't do it without you.
If we can get to 100 patrons by the end of the airing of this show, that goal is still on. We'll do an episode on the Netflix Cowboy Bebop show, the live action. We'll do one episode for the whole series, so it's going to be a long one. It's going to be a lot of work, but I think that it's something we can do together if we can get, make this happen. A couple of things regarding some of these episodes before we sort of get into the meat and potatoes of the episode itself. So, you know how in a previous episode, Ollie, you were talking about how enamored you were with all of the mechanical things and the low-tech, high-tech?
Yeah. Cowboy Bebop is pretty interesting when it comes to technology. I mean, you would look at it. They're flying ships in outer space using halogen bulbs for the swordfish's headlights. And then you see Spike moving this flying thing, which is usually, maneuvered by a flight stick or like on traditional commercial airplanes. But he was using like a bike throttle, and then he has two pedals in each. He has a pedal on each foot. So I was trying to put two and two together. Like, how does it work?
It's like a motorcycle.
Yeah, but
it's literally a flying motorcycle.
It is. It's pretty interesting. Like, how do you control your vertical and then your horizontal? Like, how do you move your flaps? It's pretty interesting. And I think we did a research on this, or you did a research on this. Like, the guys behind this is Gundam guys?
I did, yes. Okay, so I did some digging on the show because I thought, hey, that's all really, really cool stuff, and there's got to be a reason behind it, and obviously the show didn't come from nowhere. So the show Cowboy Bebop was produced by Studio Sunrise, which is also the same studio who is behind Gundam. And so if you know Gundam, you know them for their look, if you're watching the show, you know Gundam. I don't think I have to explain Mobile Suit Gundam, but just in case I do, essentially it's space opera with giant mech suits that fight each other. And it usually goes places much darker than you expect, but it's known for its mech design In fact,
Very, very good. Oh,
I've got one right here.
is that an X?
Nope, that's the one from Gundam Seed. I can't remember what it's called right
Oh,
now. I
there's
should
so many
know,
Gundam. There's so many Gundams, man.
but I should know that one, and I'm going to get roasted in the comments for this, for not knowing exactly what that Gundam is.
It's a cool Gundam
Freedom. I
though.
think it's Strike Freedom Gundam.
Strike Freedom. There we go.
Anyway, so specifically, the studio that did Bebop is Studio 2, who also did Gundam Zeta and Gundam Double Z, which I guess were really, really cool. Key members of this studio went on to eventually form Studio Bones,
Bones, baby.
who did Hiroaka, Space Dandy, and both Full Metal Alchemist series.
Yep.
If you're looking for their
Noragami.
pedigree.
Noragami, they did that. Soul Eater. Oran Host Club. They did a lot.
They've been very busy. Studio Bones is definitely one of the big anime studios. Now, the first project that these guys did, Studio Bones ever did, was the Cowboy Bebop movie called Knockin' on Heaven's Door. So these guys who made Bebop, who did the all the famous mechanical designs, all of the incredible animation that we've seen, that's all been hand drawn, by the way. That's the thing with a lot of these 90s animes. This is before CGI animation and even CGI backgrounds. All of this has been done by hand up until this point.
Same.
And so the first thing they did as Studio Bones was to take Cowboy Bebop and make the movie Knockin' on Heaven's Door, which, again, I didn't even know was a thing until doing research for this show.
It's a lot of work, man. If you're going to draw every panel by hand.
So, obviously, we're going to talk about that movie come the end of this show.
I want to see it.
So, keep it locked for that, because you're going to want to see how this all goes. Speaking of keeping things going and moving along in the series, it's finally time to get in to Session 5, Ballad of Fallen Angels. So this episode, I don't know about you, Ollie, but when I see talk about this episode or discussion about this episode or shots from this episode or scenes from this episode, it really feels like the season finale. Feels like the series finale.
It did give the season finale vibes 100%.
Like, it's the first time we learn about Spike's history and all the action that happens feels like it's the end of the series. And you're going to find out why in a little bit. What were your thoughts going into this episode?
Pretty interesting because, like, you know, finally we get like a Spike Spiegel like backstory arc, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the first episode I think that you would see Spike is directly involved in a certain party.
Right. Up until now, there's been all these adventures happening to Spike.
And you would see that he took this personally. You would see the difference. It's like, it's not something that, oh, money, Wulong, sure, I'll do it. This is different. He's like, huh, okay.
Well,
what's going on here?
Up until now, it's very much felt like a Doctor Who story, where Spike and Jet kind of appear in people's lives and do a thing and then disappear. Things happen to them in that moment and then they disappear. But this is the first episode where things feel a little bit more real, more
it's like more canon.
Yeah,
it directly involves the characters. Like, this is
exactly
this is your story,
right? So we're gonna sort of go through this episode bit by bit, and by the time we get to the end of it, we'll have more complete thoughts about the whole episode.
Yep.
So we open on two crime bosses, Mao Yenrai of the Red Dragons and Carlos of the White Tiger, deciding to finally bury the hatchet after years of fighting and bloodshed. They've decided we're done with it. We're sick of it. We're getting old. We just can't do this anymore. Now, Mao Yenrai of the Red Dragons and Carlos of the White Tigers I don't know if you know this, but tigers and dragons are often seen in combat. Usually they represent the yin and the yang in Japanese mythology. And just to show you how broken my sensibilities are in terms of references, you played No More Heroes 2, right?
Mm-hmm. I love that
Okay.
series, man.
Remember the fight between Travis and, oh my God, what was his name?
I know there's a guy
Uh,
who turns into a tiger.
well, that's Travis. In that game, No More Heroes 2, Travis actually
Mm.
turns into a tiger as like a finisher, as an ultimate. It's really cool. Ryu. Anyway, there's a guy who uses a big laser pole arm. He's got a cool motorcycle. His bike's way cooler than Travis, and you fight him eventually. And he's often um, depicted as a dragon. He's seen as the dragon to Travis's tiger.
Mhm.
And at the end, Travis is devastated because, spoiler alert, you beat him, and he's not allowed to survive. And Travis is like, this is devastating because he was a true warrior, just like Travis sees himself as a true warrior, but he is seen as the dragon to Travis's tiger. So that's just a cool thing. Dragons and tigers are always fighting each other because they're yin and yang. So when Carlos leaves, the Red Dragons are shocked to see his ship explode in broad daylight. And suddenly all of Mao's men are dead, except for him, at the hands of a mysterious man with a sword and a bird. Mao is then cut down by this man. This man who we don't know anything about, but he's got a bird on his shoulder that looks like a vulture,
White
and he's
hair.
got long white hair and a sword, which
Sephiroth vibes, man. Straight up. Sephiroth vibes. Look.
Sephiroth vibes indeed. So, this Sephiroth looking guy cuts down Mao, and in Mao's last words, he says that if Spike was around, none of this would have happened. And to
That's
this,
what
the
got
man
us.
just smiles.
Man, what was your reaction when Mao said that? I was like, oh, hold up. What does Spike have to do with this?
Well, I immediately had that first thought of being like, well, now we know this is going to be a Spike episode. This is
Yep.
finally going to be an episode where we learn about who Spike is. So, Jet and Spike find a bounty for 28 million Wulongs. This is back on the Bebop. On Mao for some sort of unknown crime. And Spike's all for it. But Jet doesn't like it. He thinks that Spike's being, too headstrong. And that Spike is hiding something from Jet about Mao. Now, obviously, at this point, this isn't Spike saying, I'm going to go get this guy. This is, I'm going to see an old friend.
Yeah.
And figure out why there's a bounty out for him.
It's weird, man. Like, we all thought, like, from our previous episodes, that Spike and Jet's relationship was like, yeah, they're bros. They're transparent. And then this is clearly shows, like, oh, both these guys are still holding cards on their chest. So it just shows us, their relationship is not the perfect one that we know, like, oh, we're brothers in arms and this and that. Like, I still have my secrets. So does the other one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a good dynamic. Like, okay.
Well, it
Spike.
definitely goes to show that there is still a lot more to the series that even they don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I think it
Definitely.
helps to keep the universe mysterious. Then it
100%.
then for them to be 100% on the same page at all time. It just creates drama for the viewer, which is always exciting. But yeah, this is the first time we've seen them argue about something, and it shows us that Spike still doesn't actually know what happened to Jet's arm.
No. I think Jet is
So
having this, this heebie-jeebies like, hey, man, maybe you shouldn't take this job. Maybe not this one.
because it feels wrong. Something about it feels wrong.
Something's iffy.
So Faye walks into the middle of all this, sees the bounty, and just gets real excited because that's a lot of money.
I don't get me started with the Wulongs, man.
You've been started.
So reminder, 28 Wulongs is not a lot.
28 million.
28 million is not a lot of Wulongs. It's not a lot of US dollars or Canadian dollars. Just want to let you know that.
So Spike makes his way to the swordfish and takes off. Jet saying that he won't be backing him up, and Spike's like, fine, I'll just handle it myself. Now, after learning a little bit more about the bounty, Faye makes her way to an opera house, following a new lead that comes through the computer while Jet wasn't looking. Now, at this point, uh, she flirts her way up to Mao
Valet.
Yamiba's
The way
opera
she,
box.
yeah, no, the way she like rolled up in the valet,
Mm.
handed the keys, it's pretty smooth, man.
Well, I think we can see where the animation budget went to in this episode.
Mm,
Well,
mm,
we'll see. We'll see where it goes
mm.
later on in the episode. So she sits down next to Mao, or who she believes to be Mao, only to find out that he's very dead. And at this
Gone.
point, the man with the bird and the sword introduces himself as Vicious, which Faye seems to know.
Yeah, it's like it rung a bell. Like, oh, it's like, oh
Oh,
shit,
it's you.
oh.
And so Faye is absolutely horrified. Cut to commercial. Now we cut back to two boys in a magazine shop trying to check out some nudie mags, trying to steal them.
Boys.
Now stopped by the older shopkeeper lady and chases them out of there. Now, you were telling me a story about how uh, it was you were saying growing up that, like, sure, you could afford these magazines, no
Yeah,
problem.
you can buy the nudie bag. You can afford it monetarily, but does your does your pride allow it? Like a kid, like I'm just telling this based on an experience of a friend.
Sure.
So three dudes, three kids, I don't know, 14, 11, 12.
Before you continue,
Mhm.
nobody at Helga House recommends stealing nudie mags
Not cool.
from a convenience store.
Not cool.
Let's just start there.
No, we don't support that. So, you and your boys in the convenience store scoping out some nudie bags, and then you can afford it. They probably won't sell it to you, or if they did, they would like stare at you. These are like way back in the 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as a kid, oh my god, you're buying nudie bags. So, this is also typical in Japan. Kids kind of steal nudie bags back then, way back then. So, it's funny. And yeah.
So it was almost as if the age restriction on it wasn't do you have ID? It's are you mature enough to purchase this in
Yeah.
person in
Yeah.
front of somebody else? If you are mature enough, then okay, sure, you've earned it. But if you're not, then you're not gonna, and you don't get the magazines.
I mean, for audiences, we're all mature here. I think it's kind of similar to about a dude walking up to a convenience store and buying a pack of condoms.
Yeah,
If you're mature enough, you're gonna roll up, buy a pack of condoms.
it's a
have good,
non-issue.
yeah, have a good night, thanks. You walk out.
Yep.
That's it. That's how I see it.
So anyway, shopkeeper lady chases the boys out of there. One of the boys twists his ankle and falls down. Now, I mention this because, okay, so usually in like an animated series or something, or any type of, really anything, very rarely do they actually show the injury that causes somebody to trip and fall. I'm serious. Go back to any thing that has a chase scene in it. If somebody falls down, they either tripped over something,
Face plant
they just
straight.
fell down,
Mm-hmm.
or they knocked into something. But rarely do you see the thing actually trip them. In this case, we see the twisting ankle in all its delicious glory. And I gotta tell you, man, I felt that.
Man, the animator was like, I want to show you pain. This is what pain looks like. I'm gonna spend, I don't know, 4 hours and make 30 frames of this ankle twisting goodness and make you feel that for a fraction of a second.
And boy, was it effective.
Yeah, I was like, ugh. Ooh, that hurts.
Ugh. Now the other kid runs into Spike and falls down and is shocked to find out that Spike has somehow managed to swipe the magazine. Now this woman is absolutely shocked to see Spike. She thought he died 3 years ago. She tells Spike what happened to Mao, fully aware that Spike will go after Vicious for revenge. She pours a drink for Mao that Spike takes, and she gives him a gun and some bullets to do the deed. So back on the Bebop, Spike's gathering some more
Oh,
guns and a few grenades.
there's a
And Jet,
few things that we need to like cover on that conversation between Spike and
yeah, go
the
for it.
shop lady. So you would see the shop lady like slamming down drinks and whiskey, right? They're talking
Mhm.
about their history. I think the moment when the lady poured a drink and she said, "This one's for Mao," Spike grabbed the glass
Mhm.
and says, "If it's for Mao, I'm taking it."
Okay.
So it shows that Spike, it's either Spike owes Mao big time, or Spike holds Mao in a very high regard.
Right.
So we need. I'm still like wondering, like, okay, what is Mao to Spike?
And I don't think it's ever spelled out for us,
That's a thing. That's the mystery of it.
but we can absolutely speculate at the end of the
Yeah,
episode.
yeah.
So just then, the boys get a call from Faye. She's tied up and needs a rescue from Vicious. Uh, Now Jet wants to just leave her on her own, but, Spike decides to go anyway, saying that it's not for her. Spike is led by Vicious to an old cathedral, and the music that plays here is perfect. The song is Rain by the Seatbelts. Now I'm going to play a little bit here.
To say, if you want, you'll find a way. But mother never danced through fire shower. Whoa, in the rain.
After a few words where Vicious explains that he had to kill Mao for losing his fangs, we see that Faye is held at gunpoint, and Spike is demanded to drop his gun. Now, like something straight out of a John Woo film. In fact, this whole scene is very much straight out of a John Woo film. And I think you know the scene I'm talking about, where it's like a final stand, two guys in white suits, final stand in a church.
It's the music too, man.
And the music as well.
The music, like, oh, this is the end. Oh no.
But like something out of a John Woo film, Spike puts a bullet in the guy's head and proceeds to wipe the floor with the rest of them.
Pretty darn good, actually. Good animation.
Again, all hand drawn. So while Faye is making her escape, we see again where the real animation budget went to. Spike is shot while climbing the stairs, right through the gut. Like it's an exit wound, which you mentioned before.
You can see it in the back.
It goes straight through, which is good.
Good.
I think.
You have two holes though. That's the problem.
Two is more than one.
Two is more than one, but it's either you have one hole and a bullet in you, or you get two holes but no bullet in you.
Well, as somebody who's never been shot, I can tell you that I don't want either.
You want two holes.
I want two holes. Okay.
When you get
Great.
shot. It's gonna
Good
put
to
it
know.
out there. You want the two holes.
Great. Just great.
Yep.
So Spike just takes a deep breath and continues up the stairs.
What a boss. Holy shit.
We cut to Jet pruning a bonsai tree saying, geez, I'm butchering it.
Yeah.
Kind of just as Spike gets shot.
It's like a premonition.
Now, who among us hasn't been sitting in silence doing something, knowing that there's something else we should be doing?
Yep.
And done that exact same thing.
It's like,
where we say, the only thing we say is just, damn it.
Yeah.
You get up.
Yep.
And you go do the right thing. You go do the thing you have to.
You use your standard issue curse word.
Yeah. Take your pick.
Fine. And then you stand up and then you start doing what you're supposed to.
So Spike confronts Vicious in front of a huge stained glass window. And the following dialogue happens after the two gentlemen get into a very quick stalemate between sword and gun. Now, this is the scene that I thought happened at the end of the series. Like, I thought this was the end. I thought this was how the series ends.
Yeah. Again, Season ender vibes.
Very much season ender vibes. So Vicious says, Spike, do you know what your face looks like right now? Spike says, what? Vicious says, a ravenous beast. The same blood runs in you and me, the blood of a beast who wanders desiring the blood of others. Spike says, I bled all that blood away. And Vicious says, why are you still alive? Now the stalemate has ended as they both wound each other. Vicious grabs Spike's face and throws him through the stained glass window. But not before Spike, in all of his
Hands. Slate of hands.
Glory, deftly drops a grenade at Vicious's feet.
I didn't even see that, to be honest.
Now as Spike falls, we see flashes of his past life, where he and Vicious were comrades, and a woman was in bed with Vicious.
See, it's always a girl.
Spike is seen with a bouquet of flowers under her window.
Raining.
Yes.
You have to say raining.
Raining.
Good.
Now this woman turns out is somebody that I guess nursed Spike back to health at one point.
Mm-hmm.
He fell in love with her. She ended up deciding to be with Vicious instead. From
there
what
was
it
a
looks
scene.
like.
Was there a scene? I think there was a scene where the girl was in bed with Vicious.
Yeah, that's what the scene is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she was in bed with Vicious. She decided to be with him instead, and that created the
rift
between the two boys, between the two, I'll say men. And I think that Mao is like both of their boss, or was their boss, and so they worked for Mao together as comrades. I think.
Now I want to know why Vicious killed Mao.
Well, because he lost his fangs because he was going to sign the peace treaty. So, Spike wakes up to the sounds of this woman humming and asks her to keep on humming. But in the present, Spike wakes up to Faye doing the same back on the Bebop. Turns out he was rescued by his friends, is fully wrapped in bandages, and has been out for 3 whole days. First thing he says to Faye, your humming is off key. Faye smacks him with a pillow and storms off, ending the episode. Now Spike is left with the ace of spades on his forehead. Now, fun fact, this episode is the only episode where nobody is seen smoking throughout the entire length of it. Think about that for a second.
I'm trying to...
Nobody smokes in this episode.
Right.
Kind of cool, eh?
Right. Yeah. Huh.
I just thought it was cool. Now, coming to the end of this episode, what were your overall thoughts of it? Again, very much felt like a end of episode, right? Like end of season?
Yeah, it's the end of season episode. I think it's all of it's the total of that scene where the cathedral, the really good fight scene, the gunplay, sword fight, music, flashback. It's like, oh my god, he's seeing his life before his eyes. He's gonna kick it.
This is it.
Yeah, he's done. Yeah, it's pretty good. But now we have a whole more questions about Spike's past now.
Well, I'd say a lot of it is. So, do you remember in the first episode, the first thing we see is Spike, or this guy, Spike, in the dark, getting shot up with a grenade and smiling. That was the first thing we see.
Oh, that might be him and Vicious back then.
It might have been. Maybe that was what led to him being in bed with this lady taking care of him. Okay, so it feels like I could be completely wrong, and this is just this is like fresh speculation. It feels like this could have been like an episode, like a series-ending episode.
I'd say yeah.
But they either copped out or were told that they have to keep going, and so they wrote the scene at the end where
So they were
Spike
like,
is inexplicably still alive.
"You're gonna end the series." Oh wait, no, you're not. It looks pretty darn good. You're gonna keep going.
Right? And so then after this episode, after the session, when we get into the next one, it feels like things get more sci-fi based.
Yeah, like completely sci-fi. Episode 6 is super
Whereas
spin-off. Super spin-off.
whereas up until now the stories have been fairly grounded
Yeah.
uh
Bounties.
in
Yeah, that's it.
in like a western.
Yeah.
Now they're going to have a much more sci-fi twist, which, oh my god, theory blast. My brain just exploded thinking about this. What if Spike is dead? What if Spike is dead at the end of this episode and everything that happens afterwards
It's a dream.
is a dream, or is like in his head, or is him dealing with trauma, or
Could be. I
oh
mean,
my god.
it's something that I wouldn't be surprised. Like, oh yeah, this guy's dead. He's just recalling life, and he's gonna kick the bucket. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But like,
Yeah. I could
that's
totally
weird,
see that.
right?
I could totally see that.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna have to come back to this after the end of the series to see whether or not this actually holds up. Because now I'm thinking about, the more I think about this, the crazier it sounds and the more sense it starts to make. But kind of feels like maybe, oh no, what if I'm right? What if we're right about this?
It's like, oh my god, okay. We're just watching a dead man's dreams in this whole all these episodes.
We're gonna start keeping track then of future episodes and see if they are more sci-fi based and like wacky based, or if they still stay grounded. Because we got a lot of episodes left to get through, but yeah, we got to see kind of how this pans out.
Yep. This episode that's coming up is pretty out there,
Right.
so to speak.
So, session 6.
All right.
Sympathy for the Devil. Now, this is one that you took the notes on.
Oh yeah.
And when we say that things get weird and sci-fi based, you're gonna see kind of why. And just before we get into it, the first thing you see in this episode is like a laboratory situation.
Yep.
Where it looks like they're putting a person together.
Yeah. The person is like pieced
And
up, but the eye.
The last thing you see is that black circle, which then sort of jump cuts or crossfades into Spike
Waking up in a bar.
No, he's already, like, he's in the bar. He's in the bar watching the musician. Take it from there.
Yeah. So, like what Scott said, so the episode starts with, it's a scene, it's a cut, like you're inside a laboratory, and they're doing something that focus on an eye that needs to be like shoved into that person. I don't know. I can't confirm who that person is in bed. But then again, it snaps back to Spike waking up. Like, I think like he dozed off in a bar, right? So he's
he was watching. Yeah, he was listening to the harmonica player.
Yeah, there's this kid playing the harmonica. So after that, now it pans straight back to the bebop after that scene. Now,
Are you sure?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty weird sequence. Now it pans back to the bebop where Faye just like fresh out of the shower, got some munchies and checks out the fridge. Now she finds a can of dog food, obviously for Ein.
Obviously.
So Ein, being a good best boy, stands in front of his doggy bowl, waiting for the dog food. Faye cracks open the dog food and proceeds to eat it.
Yuck.
With a fork.
I mean, at least she's using a fork.
With a fork, and tells Ein that, well, you should work. Us ladies are more fragile and we need to be taken care of. Blah, blah, blah. And throws the can at, rolling down the hallway. I'm like, wow.
Now, this is completely irrelevant to the rest of the story.
This is completely irrelevant. I'm like, why would you do this to Ein?
You think maybe it would have something to do with the story, but it goes absolutely nowhere.
And now, she sits on the couch and she sees a bounty for 3 million wulongs, which is not a lot compared to the last episode, right?
Right.
And then she says, I'm going to ask the boys to get this for me. Fair enough. Now the scene cuts to Jet and Spike eyeing Giraffe, which is the one with the 3 million wulong bounty.
Yeah.
So they were
Well,
talking.
they're still in the bar. They're looking for that. They're looking for Giraffe before
Yeah.
Faye finds the bounty, but she's like, "Oh, they're going after the same thing now already, so I'll just wait for them to bring it home, I
Now,
guess."
the funny thing is, all these scenes happen in quick succession. After it pans out to the sunglasses of Spike rotating.
Oh, right, those super cool
So I'm
steampunk
like,
glasses.
are they trying to tell me that they put that eye in the first scene into Spike? Is it Spike on that operating table?
Another thing it shows really well is it uses Faye and Ein as a literary device to explain exactly what the boys are doing in the bar without them having to recount that to the audience.
Yeah. So there they spot their bounty.
Mhm.
They spot Giraffe, and then with that contraption on Spike's sunglasses, it presents
Yep.
data. Okay, this is the guy. He told Jet, yeah, that's our guy.
Mhm.
You go to the right, I go to the left. But then again, Spike notices there's Fatty Rivers.
An old buddy of Jet's.
So Jet was like, oh, I know the guy. I was
Yeah.
like, what? Okay. So he proceeds to talk to the guy. They talk about
Mhm.
music. It's been a long time. And then while that was happening, they show a scene of the kid playing the harmonica, pushing the guy on a wheelchair out. Now, Spike trailed these guys, and then when they got in the cab, you would notice that the kid was doing the talking.
Right, and that was something that's just a tiny little Easter egg that it's a blink and you miss a moment where
Yeah.
the kid's the one telling the driver where to go, not the
Mhm.
adult.
So while that's happening, the kid and the dude in the wheelchair got on a cab.
Mhm.
He saw Giraffe getting on a cab to trail.
Right, they're
the
being
other
followed
two.
by Giraffe.
Now Spike books it because he's not a plebeian. He doesn't take the cab.
No, he doesn't have a cab. He's got a ship.
I got a
his-
swordfish.
I got the swordfish. Yeah.
Okay. Now the scene cuts to Giraffe entering the hotel where apparently the child and the guy in a wheelchair checked into. And then he stood by the door, took a deep breath, pulls a gun out, and I was like, okay, what's
He's
going
going
on
in.
here? You know, Buddy starts kicking the door. Entered. I must comment, his room clearing skills suck. After a hallway, he went straight to the middle before he turns around and aims the gun. Buddy, you would have been shot the moment you got out of that corner.
Well, you know.
Yep. Moving forward, he looks at the kid with Zebra. Zebra!
Yep.
I mean,
Says give him back.
give him back. Now, to give context, we didn't actually mention this. They found out the relationship between Zebra and Giraffe. So both of them were leaders for the self-defense force back then. Volunteer.
Well, don't we find that out when Jet's having lunch with Fatty?
That was right. That's when he was having lunch with Fatty. Okay.
Yeah. So that doesn't happen yet.
Hold that thought.
Yep.
So he aims the gun. Zebra, give him back. Then it pans out to Spike on his swordfish with the dude getting blasted out of the window from God knows how high that is. And then, of course, Studio Bones guys with all their mechanical knowledge and glory.
Oh,
You would see Spike see the guy falling from the building. Quick shot to the shifters of the swordfish, throttling up. Quick shot to the foot. Like, quick foot action on the levers. Swordfish kind of like bows down and then
Catches
swoops
him.
up. He did a low sweep. You can see like the cars on the bottom. Pans up and then scoop this guy with a tip of his. So the guy was like, no. I'm surprised he didn't like flip the guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you physics? Like, it's either the
Yeah.
moment before he touched him, he gently like moved down. I don't know. Anyway, physics out of the window. Buddy didn't bounce off the swordfish. He's there.
Who needs physics anyway?
I don't know. I'm just like thinking
Who
he would
needs
have like
physics?
smacked the guy, made him spin like, to the floor. So Spike got Buddy on the tip of the swordfish, landed on a rooftop. Got off the swordfish and tells the guy, see him that he is shot up. Just one shot.
Oh.
A clean. There's a hole. There
Yep.
is a hole. As big as a...
Blasted hole.
How big is this hole? What's a good reference for a hole?
That big?
No,
that big?
man. He was still talking, dude.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think it's as big as
Like a coffee cup?
you know what? Just a bit smaller than the coffee cup. It's a big hole.
Okay. Yeah.
It is a big hole. So Spike was worried about, hey man, don't talk. If you die, I don't get paid.
You die, I don't get paid.
That was
And so
his
yeah,
problem.
doesn't he then give Spike? He gives Spike this ring, and then proceeds to
And
die.
then Buddy told Spike, hey, you don't understand. You have to be careful around him. Okay, there are two dudes. Which him?
It's not what you think. It's not the way you think.
Yeah, it's not the way you think.
Yep.
Take this. Hands him a ring with a big red gem in the middle.
Yeah.
So Spike took the ring. The cop showed up late.
As they tend to do.
And the scene ends there. We're back on the Bebop. They were sitting there and talking about, you would see the ring. I don't know what you call this contraption, because we already established that they have this contraption that sucks out. Oh, we haven't got there.
No, that's not yet.
Not yet. You'll be surprised about
Not
the technology available to people in this world. They have this thing. I don't know. You can put anything. I don't know. Like put this candle lighter there. Okay, like probes come out and will tell you what it's made of.
Mm-hmm.
So they put the ring there, and then all Jet says, "Well, this is worth something." And Spike like, "Oh, we can use it to buy our food, not including you, Faye."
No, because Faye just ate. Oh, Faye just ate Yin's last can of dog food.
Dick move.
Which the boys had obviously purchased for the dog.
Exactly. So
that's where that resentment comes from.
We can say that the boys love Ein at this point.
Absolutely, we can. 100%.
Like, yeah. Ein's in the group now.
Yeah.
And then Faye was like, oh, you're no fun. You don't have a heart. All you have in there is lead. Jet to the rescue. Oh, but I do have a surprise for you. I'm not like Spike. Give us a receipt.
No, the invoice.
Here's an invoice. What is this?
Invoice for
you
everything.
Staying in the Bebop and the food and everything that you use up on my ship.
Yeah.
So that happened.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. So Buddy's dead. The guy that gave Spike the ring is dead. So there's no more money in it, right?
In the bounty.
In the bounty. Now, for some reason, Jet is not Jet feels like something's kind of weird because like Buddy gave Spike the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Now he remembered his buddy Fatty Rivers, invites him to have a ton of pastries, a lot of sweets, and tea.
Yeah, he invites him for tea.
We're talking about like two big dudes here. Dudes can mess you up.
They love dessert.
On the table full of dessert.
Yeah.
It's like, I like dessert, but you look like the steak, the meat and potatoes kind of guy, but there's a whole goddamn cake there.
Yeah.
And pastries and tea. It looks cool.
I don't know which one I'd eat first.
Yeah, so they were munching, and then Jet asked, hey, I just want to ask you about something. Oh, this is not for free. So Fatty was like, okay, I'll tell you something. Apparently, Giraffe and Zebra were part of the volunteer self-defense force, right? And they served together, and then they had a falling out. That was 10 years before the current time.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, he got all his information. Jet went back to the Bebop, and he was like, okay, now he has an idea about who these guys are. And then Fatty also mentioned something about the kid. Now, this is the weird part. The kid calls Giraffe father. So this made Jet think like, okay, there's something more than this.
Hmm.
Okay. And apparently there was some double crossing that happened. So Jet is intrigued and he went back to do his research. Now the scene goes back to Spike in the same bar watching the kid playing the harmonica, the kid with pushing the guy on the wheelchair,
Yeah, he's playing again. He's got a second show.
playing again. After the playing comes, it pans back to the bebop and show Jet doing his homework about these guys, and then Faye walking around like, "Are you still on that? Like, why would they? Why do you think this guy is after him? Is it because he double crossed him?" And then Jet mentioned something about men living by a code of honor of steel, which
Yeah, this
which
this
Faye doesn't
okay. So
comprehend.
there's a few things in this episode that I kind of take umbrage with, and I think it's a sign of the times of when it came out and when the show was produced.
Mhm.
There's a lot of misogyny
Oh yeah,
in this episode,
oh,
more than we've seen, about how Faye's the one who eats the dog food. They kind of rip on her for being a woman. There's a few things that happen in this episode that don't feel great. That feel the show maybe hasn't aged as well as we think. The animation has aged great. The stories are real, but some of the character interaction just I get it for its time, and Jet being an old man talking like that, like we all know dudes like that, but it doesn't it's it's not a line of dialogue you would ever find in a show today.
no, it's not. Definitely not.
It feels like some of the lines that have come out of Jet in this episode.
Oh, 100%. There are lines because back then, like we have to remember, this is this is a very old anime, right? And I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's
at
not
least
on
30 years
purpose,
old.
and I think it's not like a bad. It's not in bad taste that
Well,
there's
it's
a
not
scene.
malicious. It just
Oh yeah,
it's
it's
just
not.
it's a sign of its time.
Mhm. But it's. I don't think that the dog food, where Faye ate the dog food, she was not forced to eat the dog food, right? I mean, we know these
No,
guys are
no, no. It
kind.
was her choice.
These
She
guys
needed
were
she
kind of broke, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's all there is in the fridge, which is I think they love the dog, so they would rather have food for the dog
Right.
than
Right.
for
Sorry,
themselves.
I don't mean to derail the episode.
All
But it's
good.
just the wording on that kind of didn't sit quite right. And
Oh
how
man, you
because if
should.
there's anything that the show has shown us, it's that there are so many slimy, gross, backhanded dudes. And unfortunately, it seems like a lot of the women are just the ones who get caught up in what happened.
You know what's a good example? What anime? Like this is just a reference. Watch this anime on your own time and tell me like this is a perfect example. Golden Boy.
I haven't seen Golden Boy.
Watch that anime with the current mindset, and you would be. This wouldn't air in this time
Yeah,
of
fair
media.
enough.
Like
Fair
I
enough.
I
Sorry.
rewatched a few episodes. I was like, ooh, crazy. Yeah.
Anyway, so
Anyway,
Faye is not stoked about getting a receipt, not getting an invoice.
yeah.
But they start to do some more research on the ring, don't they?
Mhm.
While Spike follows
Trailing.
the kid, trailing the kid, right?
So from this
Or the
point,
kid.
the kid. From this point, I am starting to hate the
Excuse
kid
me.
progressively.
Yeah, you start to hate this kid progressively.
So Spike followed the kid with the guy on the wheelchair,
Mhm.
and they ended up in a warehouse. Okay.
Yep.
Spike caught up to them with the kid and the dude on the wheelchair on the top of a flight of stairs.
Oh yeah, how'd
Which
they get up there?
that's what I was like. I'm pretty sure this facility does not have
An
accessibility for a wheelchair.
right.
How did you get up there? Anyways,
Yeah.
physics out the window.
Who
No
needs
problem.
physics?
You
Who
got
needs
up there.
physics?
More power to you.
Yeah.
So, kid asked, "Tell me, who are you?" Spike was like, "I just want to talk, man. Just want to talk and start moving forward." Kid caps Spike on the shoulder.
Mm.
I'm like, okay. Kid's capping him. No problem. And then
kid's got guts.
yeah, and then it pans back to Faye and Jet doing the research. They found photos of the kid and Giraffe. Now the kid was with a different older man.
Yeah.
And then the next photo was the kid with Giraffe.
Mm-hmm. But
Now,
the first photo was from like 30
no,
years ago.
Jet didn't notice it.
No, Faye noticed it.
Faye noticed it. Like, hold up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hold up. How come the kid looks the same? What do you mean? Look at the date. They went back. That was 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So now these two, Jet and Faye, were like, oh,
That's bad.
Something's weird.
Yep.
Something's weird. Now we pan back to Spike shot up, and the kid telling him, like, you got to stay out of this, man.
Yeah. Stay out of this, kid.
Yeah, he called Spike a kid.
Yeah.
And then Spike is still calling him a kid. And then we cut back to the scene after the commercial break with the kid, it's, this effect, like blur, like bloom effect, right?
Yep.
It's like to
It's
tell
like a
you
dream
that-
sequence.
Yeah, it's like to tell you that this is from this person's dream. So we see the kid playing a harmonica, standing up on top of a rock, and I would assume that's his parents. They don't have eyes. And then the sun suddenly lights up. The sky lights up, and he was staring at it. And then the next thing we knew, we got a panned out shot from outer space with a thing close to Earth, kind of blowing up. Pans back to Earth. Everything's pretty dead, and the kid is being
shielded by the dead parents' bodies.
It's like, I wouldn't say it's burned. It's weird because if it's burned, there's nothing. But if you take a closer look at the body, there's like growth of plants. It's like it quickly decomposed. It's like,
so essentially what happened was the first space gate exploded in a situation.
Yeah, I don't know if time passed differently, like faster there or heat. I don't know. It's just I couldn't make anything out of it. And then they say the hyperspace gate was blown into bits.
Yeah. And so because it was blown into bits and you were confused, I remember you being confused about this last time we talked about this episode. And we find out basically the way Jet explains it was that the particles created a quantum field inside
the kid,
inside the kid, which prevented him from aging,
decaying, anything.
Which meant that time didn't pass for this child. And the ring that Spike got
from Giraffe
was made of the same stuff as the
part from the hyperspace gate.
From a hyperspace gate, right. So all that is explained to Spike. Even up, and then Spike manages to pop the guy, like, clean headshot. But as Spike goes to check out the body's gone.
Yep. So they had a gunfight. And then the scene that actually made me hate the kid is he pushed Buddy on a wheelchair off the flight of stairs.
Oh, right. Oh, that's so rude.
I'm like, hey, man. You use this guy as a proxy as your dad and casually push this guy over a flight of stairs on a wheelchair.
Man, not cool, dude. Super not cool.
You're an a-hole.
Yeah.
I would say you're a very big a-hole.
Yeah.
Of course, Spike being Spike catches Buddy on a wheelchair, but then again, you would see a splatter of blood because Spike got him clean on the head.
Yeah. It should have been a clean headshot, but when Spike goes to find the body, it's gone.
It's gone. Yeah. So Spike brought Zebra back to the Bebop and with Jet and the other crew, and then this is where it gets zany.
Okay, so they have this thing. They have
talk about it, Scott. I don't even know how to talk about this goddamn thing.
Okay, so I think this goes a little bit back to my theory earlier about maybe Spike's dead, because this comes out of nowhere, as far as I know, isn't referenced again.
Right.
And is at no point given any kind of...
There's no context to it.
Context to it, exactly. So they have this machine called the Alpha Scraper, where basically they can take a body, a comatose body,
As long as it's
living.
breathing.
Right. So this character is in a coma or is knocked out or something. A vegetable, maybe. It's never
Zebra.
explained.
100%.
Zebra.
He's a vegetable. He's a
Right.
vegetable.
So they put this harness on his head, and they were able to scrape through his alpha brainwaves to pull some of the last things that he's seen. But the last thing he saw was from 24 hours, at least a day and a half ago.
Mm.
So weird. And this is where we see that the child or the kid or this other person, this villain, is the one who shot Giraffe out of the hotel. And that's when that's when everybody kind of realizes the scope of what's going on. And again, this body is never brought up again. This machine, as far as I'm aware, hasn't been brought up again since. They just so happen to have the perfect thing they need to get the understanding of what's going on. And they also have all of the mechanical abilities to make bullets out of anything. So essentially, Spike makes a bullet out of the ring and loads it into a one-shot pistol, like a dueling pistol.
It's a breech-loaded pistol. It's classic, man. You have to like break it down, breech load.
And Spike decides, I'm gonna end this once and for all. I don't know if this is actually gonna work.
Yeah. Yes, two things can happen when you fire this. Kid dies, planet blows
kid
up.
Dies and the planet explodes.
So
we'll see kind of what happens.
You get one shot and either of the two can happen.
Yeah.
So Spike was like, all right. I'm like, dude, if I was Ein, if I can possess Ein's body and I was just like, hey man, those two things can happen. Sure. Can you at least give us some time to get off planet? So if number 2 happens,
we can get out of here.
We're out of here.
And so a couple of the things I want to mention about this sort of situation is I think that molding the ring into a bullet saved a lot on animation later on down the line, which you're going to see, because now they don't have to animate a fight scene. They just have to animate a gunshot. And leading to this final confrontation, the silliness that occurs is just wild. So the kid or the guy or whatever we're referring to him as, I don't even think we get his name. I don't even think we get a name. So this person steals a cab.
No.
Kills the cab driver.
Yeah. Caps the cab driver, grabs a cab. Straight up.
Drives away. Spike finds the kid driving.
Open fires. He pissed.
Open fires on the cab, which then causes the cab to drive into a gas station. Convenient Inferno. Oh, that's the episode title, The Convenient Inferno. Guy gets walks away because he's invincible, can't die. Sees Spike, shoots at Spike, misses Spike. Spike with nerves of steel pulls out his one shot, takes his one shot, pings the kid directly in the head, and wins, and the planet doesn't explode.
Yep. We actually missed one. I like the scene before Spike departs to clap the kid. The scene where Faye was like leaning back, and she was like, "Hey, it was nice meeting you." What do you mean? I mean, you're not coming back. And
like, you're not coming back from this,
and then just
man.
like offers Spike a cigarette in his mouth and even lights it up.
Yep. That's kind of cute.
And Spike was like, all right. I mean, the balls on this man. I'm like, yeah, you can possibly destroy this planet with that bullet. But
tell us how the episode ends, Ollie.
Well, kid got clapped. Well, so gunfight, the animation in the bullet is pretty. Actually, I can play it in the back. I want to see. Spike does the classic dueling pose, like holds the gun.
Yeah.
Takes aim. So kid doesn't even flinch because like, yeah, that's not gonna kill me or anything. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the shot. So Spike took his shot, lands it, and it's like the Matrix, like kind of view of the bullet.
It's like a slow-mo bullet. Yeah.
But once the bullet hit the kid gasps, and then smug face, and then smug face turns into not so smug face,
And then turns into old face.
proceeds to age, geriatrate. I don't know if that's a word.
Geriatrate.
In a very fast,
You come to Let's
pace.
you come to Let's Jam for the recaps. You stay for the new words.
Geriatrate. So yeah, he just turned on to an old geezer just like that. But the funny thing is, the kid was happy.
Yeah, he finally was able to pass on.
He was happy to die because,
Yeah.
like the most common trope for immortality is, how do I say this?
An inability to pass on.
If you would recall some or like most of the media that you watch that involves immortals, most of the time they're sort of, pardon my language, they're lonely.
And they're miserable.
They're not having a great time
Nope.
because everything that they kind of liked get attached. So let's say we're immortal, Scott. Oh, let's say we love
Anything.
cheeseburgers. Let's say we
Yeah.
love cheeseburgers. Okay. 2 million years from now, we're sitting down, and then I tell you, "Hey, Scott, do you remember those cheeseburgers back then?"
Yeah.
And we know for a fact we can never ever get cheeseburgers again. How would
Yep.
you feel?
Devastated.
Right?
So I'm
So
hungry.
cheeseburgers. anyways,
Why did you do this?
anyways, like case in point,
Yeah.
everyone wants to live forever, but then again,
The more
once
you think about living forever, the more you realize
you don't want it.
It's awful.
It's awful. And this is like the title is kind of fitting for this one, Sympathy for the Devil. Like the kid is the bad guy, and this obviously he's the bad guy. But then again, he's running away from being experimented on, right?
Yeah. Yep.
He just wants to die. Everything he loved, everything he held close to himself, he just watched it all go away.
Yep.
And he can only
And
take
so on his
much of that.
deathbed, he gives Spike his harmonica.
Yeah.
Spike goes to play it,
He
and
sucks.
the harmonica is dead.
Yep.
It's a dead harp.
It's
Ending the
good.
episode.
Bang.
It's good. This episode is
so-
wacky, but then again, it sends a message.
I'm excited to see the next episodes because I want to see if the wackiness continues, to see if the theory that we've crafted in this episode
Spike is dead. Theory 1, Spike is dead.
is legit. Here we are at the end of another episode of Let's Jam. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you are listening to the show on Spotify or your favorite podcast app, leaving us a nice review is really helpful. Following us on that app is also really great. Again, patreon.com/Helga House if you want to support the shows that we're making here at Helga House Productions. We got a lot on the go, a lot on the way, and lots more to come. So supporting the show really helps with that. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, then be sure to leave us a nice comment in the bottom. Let us know what you think of some of these wild, crazy theories, and subscribe to the channel because that's how good things grow.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Have a good night.
Good
Bye
night.
now.
The real folk blues 本当の悲しみが知りたいだけ泥の川に
This show was proudly produced by Helga House Productions. And for more shows like the one you just listened to, visit helgahouse.com.